join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Don, please call the roll.
Yes. Alderman. Alderman Delia.
Present.
Alderman Keene.
Present.
Alderman Lancaster.
Present.
Alderman Hall.
Present.
Alderman Swaltosh.
Present.
And Mayor Barrett. We do have a quorum.
Good. I'd like to take a minute for those of you that may or may not have heard, the mayor's wife passed away this weekend. So for those of you willing, I'd like to stand and have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Don, do you have any amendments?
Yes, because the mayor is absent, we do need to remove the mayoral remarks from number 22, unfinished business. Other than that, the agenda stands.
Make a motion to approve the agenda the way it's. Second is that?
We do have a first and a second. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Delia.
Yes.
Alderman Keene.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Alderman Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Swaltosh.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 3 is the consent agenda. Everybody can take just a few minutes, take a look at that, and see if you have any questions or concerns. Anybody have any questions?
If nobody has any questions, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
A second. We have a first and a second. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Delia.
Yes.
Alderman Keene.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster. Yes. Alderman Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Swaltosh.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 4, current outstanding invoices. If you just take a few minutes to take a look at the updated versions that we have. If you have any questions or comments, we'll talk about them.
Is the Ross contracting just, I'm guessing updates on baseball fields?
Pardon?
I think it's page 2 of 3, it says Ross Contracting LLC for $7,200. Is that, it says ball field upper, so it's just resurfacing?
Yeah, that's the resurfacing we're gonna have the board.
Oh, cool. I just.
Yeah.
What's that?
Nobody has any questions or concerns?
I'll make a motion to approve the current outstanding invoices.
Just a second. We do have a first and a second. Alderman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Billiard,
Yes.
Alderman Keenan,
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster,
Yes.
Alderman Hall,
Yes.
Alderman Swatman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 5, citizen input. If anybody'd like to come forth and speak, please do so. Ma'am, you just come forward and state your name and your address.
My name is Stephanie Evans. I'm at 605 Daniel Lane here in Willard, and I thank you for this opportunity. And I'm just wanting to express, I guess, a concern about item number 7, the appointment of Jen Rowe to the Board of Adjustments. I believe she's a former city employee, and public record shows her address to be the same as Corey Hendrickson, who's a previous government official who has been involved in who's been shown to have some criminal involvement, embezzling $300,000 from a local business. And I think it just does not build trust with the public to appoint Jen Rowe to this position. Thank you very much for this
Let me
opportunity.
back up real quick. You
Yes.
said Jen has ties to the criminal behavior or ties to just Corey having the criminal behavior? Is that what you're saying?
Same address according to public record.
Okay,
And
what'd
it
you
just
say
doesn't
about-
build trust.
Jen, did you say Jen was involved in it?
No, she has the same address, and it just doesn't build trust with the public.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yes, sir.
My name is Rick Stenberg. I live outside the city limits, but I do have a business here in town. You all are going to do something awesome tonight. Something that many of us have wanted to see happen since beginning in 2006. It's not very often that a volunteer will give tens of thousands of hours over multiple decades and then not even be recognized. You all are going to do that tonight. My purpose in being here is to say thank you. I tried every trick in the book to get Lucille to be here tonight. Lucille told me this is not her thing. She does not want recognition, and I think if you look at every honorable individual who has ever volunteered their time, they do not seek recognition. They do not seek the limelight. That is Lucille. Again, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing no one else, we'll move on to item number 6. All right, we have a proclamation here that was, the mayor was going to read, but in his absence, then I'll do it. So I'll begin by saying, whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world and celebrated annually here in Willard, And whereas Arbor Day celebrates trees as a source of enduring joy and renewal, Willard celebrates an enduring community member whose contributions have supported Willard's treescape. And whereas Lucille Murray served as a member of the Willard Park Board for 19 years, 1990 through 2009. And whereas Lucille Murray served on the City of Willard Planning and Zoning Committee beginning in 2007. And whereas Lucille Murray was the driving force behind Willard becoming a tree city in 1998 and served on the City of Willard Tree City Board from its beginning. And whereas Lucille Murray volunteered on average of 16 hours per week with the Willard Parks Department for over 20 years. Therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Sam Baird calling the citizens of Willard to join me in applauding Lucille Murray for her service to Willard and commend her for her excellent work she has done for the Willard Parks Department and the trees of Willard. And be it further resolved that Lucille Murray is an outstanding citizen of the Willard community. And be it further resolved that Mayor Sam Baird hereby proclaim that in Willard, Missouri, April 26, 2024, Arbor Day is declared to be Lucille Murray Day. Stand and applaud, please. Thank you. It is nice to do something positive on occasion. Okay, item number 7, appoint members of the Board of Adjustments. Mike?
Well, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just to give you a little bit of background about the Board of Adjustments. The Board of Adjustments is a board that is appointed by the mayor. It's a 5-member group. And Holly, if I get any of this wrong, which I'm bound to do, please correct me.
Open it up now.
So it's a 5-member board with 3 alternates that is appointed by the mayor and approved by the Board of Aldermen. This group is put into place because they are the last appeal. So if the Planning Commission, the Board of Aldermen, the staff make a decision, the Board of Adjustments is the last appeal for a developer, a citizen, regarding that decision or regarding code that is currently on the books. So what this does, it gives people a right to appeal. Their variances are regulated to what the code states in 400.250. It defines how appeals can be approved and what variances are allowed according to the codes. But these people who are not elected, they're appointed to this position. They're from different backgrounds, have different opinions. But it gives the opportunity for people to state their cases on a case-by-case basis. These people have they do not make financial decisions for the city. They're not connected to money in any way. They, like I say, deal with decisions from Board of Aldermen staff and zoning decisions that might not come up every day. So what is being proposed is, out of the 5 members, we have 4 members that are proposed. Jen Rowe for a 2-year term, Mike Long for a 3-year term, Steve Cobb for a 4-year term, and Ryan Simmons for a 5-year term. Under Article 400, we would then appoint another member for a 1-year term. And then the alternates would be appointed also, and then anybody after that would be appointed to a 5-year term. So it would just kind of roll through in that manner. Every year we would replace one for 5 years, and it would keep that cycle going. Are there any questions on the Board of Adjustments?
Have you spoke with all these individuals, I'm assuming, since they turned in an application, or?
I know the mayor has personally spoken with them. They're appointed by the mayor, so I've had limited contact with them. But I know they have expressed willingness to serve.
So, if I were a developer and I did not agree with you,
Never happens.
and you brought something before the board, and we sided with you, then this person would then approach the Board of Adjustments.
They would have 30 days to appeal through the city clerk according to our ordinance.
Okay, so then they go to the Board of Adjustments. The Board of Adjustments can't overturn anything that's in code.
No, that's not currently true.
Okay.
What the Board of Adjustments has a limited scope of things that they can overturn according to what is in section 400.250. And it depends if it's a zoning issue, there's a limited scope of things they can approve a height waiver for a building. It can be over 35 feet. Okay, we're gonna approve a height variance. You know, we have a we have a high rise come in and they want to go 5 stories. That's something that the Board of Adjustments, Board of Aldermen can approve that also. But Board of Adjustments can overturn a decision by the Board of Aldermen. They can overturn what's written in code in limited, it's pretty limited on what they can overturn in code. It deals with bulk regulations, setbacks, building heights, building sizes, different things like that. So. But that's a good question. It is pretty defined on what variances they're allowed to give out, because ultimately they do set precedents. You know, it should be the exception, not the rule. If we're getting that constantly, it means the code needs to change, not the Board of Adjustments need to have a hearing every time a developer comes in. Good question. Anything further?
All right. So what I'd like to do, after hearing Ms. Evans, last name correct?
Yes, thank you.
That's correct. After hearing Ms. Evans' concern, what I'd like to do is, instead of voting on the entire block together, I'd like the board to vote individually on the individual. Make sense? All right, so if I can get hear a motion on the first one, Jen Rowe. And it can be up or down, whatever motion you want to make.
Or in the absence of it, you can go to the next, because there's no support vote.
Okay. Option or Mike Long. I need a motion to approve or disapprove him from that position.
You just need a motion to approve.
So you're essentially making a motion. How many positions are vacant?
4 that we have tonight.
Are any of these candidates here other than, I know one is here, but I know Ryan's not here, but is Michael here by chance or no? I just don't. It's hard to make a decision based upon just a piece of paper without speaking with somebody, but I mean, if you look at any of these applicants, I personally served alongside Ryan myself, and I know Steve just from coming to numerous meetings, and I think he gives great insight for the city. But I mean, just the given fact that, you know, I kind of have a soft spot personally for military. I don't know Michael Long personally, so I can't say yes, he's a stand-up citizen just because I don't personally know him, but I'll make a motion to, you know, I guess approve if anyone else wants to vote on it.
I'll second it.
We do have a first and a second. And just for clarification of that motion, that would be for how long of a term?
That term is going to be for 3 years.
This is a 3-year term.
Correct.
Just so everyone's clear.
Ryan's and Steve were both 5, correct?
No, so Jen was proposed to be a 2-year.
Okay.
Mike was proposed to be a 3-year. Steve would be a 4-year, and Ryan would be a 5-year.
5, okay, so 4 and 5, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we do have a first and a second for Mike Long. Alderman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Billiard,
Yes.
Alderman Keane,
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster,
Yes.
Alderman Hall,
Yes.
Alderman Swanton.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the next individual is Steve Cobb.
I'll motion to approve Steve Cobb to the Board of Adjustment
I'll second that motion.
For a 4-year term.
For 4
For
years.
4 years.
for 4 years.
Do you have a first and a second? Alderman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Billiard,
Yes.
Alderman Keane,
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster,
Yes.
Alderman Hall,
Yes.
and Alderman Swanton.
Yes.
Thank you.
And lastly, Ryan Simmons for a term of 5 years.
I make a motion to approve Brian Simmons for a 5-year term
I'll
to
s-
the Board of Aldermen.
Sorry, I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. Alderman Smith,
Yes.
Alderman Billiard,
Yes.
Alderman Keane,
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster,
Yes.
Alderman Hall,
Yes. I'm sorry.
and Alderman Swanton.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to go back to Jen Road. Is there a motion or no motion?
So it's on the agenda and it needs to be dealt with, so the motion can also be not to appoint.
I mean, I don't know Jen personally. All I know is just serving, on the board when she was still involved with the city. And from what I can tell, she did a good job, but I can't attest or confirm where she lives or where she doesn't live other than public knowledge. But, like I said, I think she did a good job and, doing what Donna did, so.
Can you make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I don't mind.
Which one?
Motion.
A motion to approve, yeah.
For a 2-year term.
Just to clarify, Holly, if there was any kind of illegal actions with her working as a paralegal, that's something that if she was working for a law office, an investigation of some sort would be done prior to employment. If I'm incorrect.
No, she's in a private firm, so there's no mandate.
Okay,
Um,
but if there was speculation of some form of illegal activity, I'm assuming in the best interest, it would behoove the law firm, correct? Or
It can have an effect. I will say that my experience is that when attorneys are suspended or lose their license, it's common that other attorneys hire them as paralegals. So I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a stamp of approval.
I was just kind of curiosity.
If it were government, generally a background check is done, but I would not say that that's necessarily common in our profession.
Just curious.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we do have a first and a second. Alderman Smith?
You want to abstain? Because I don't have enough information about allegations made tonight, but to make a decision.
Alderman Billiard?
No.
Alderman Keane?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
I would abstain for the same reason that Troy did.
Alderman Hall?
Yes.
And Alderman Swaffhausen?
No.
Motion did not carry.
Okay, moving to item number 8, public hearing to consider and recommend amendments to the City of Wheeling Municipal Code Book, Chapter 705, Waterworks System, Section 705.040, water rates.
So this is the ordinance that we've talked about many times with people.
Okay.
So I would just, if anyone has anything to say, this is the water rate potential increase of 10%, which would help bring our water system closer to being financially imbalanced, but still not completely solve our problems.
No discussion? I have no discussion, we move on to item number 9. Ordinance approving amendments.
Technically, you're now closing the public hearing.
I'm not closing the public hearing, as there's been no interest in anybody having anything to say about it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, item number 9, ordinance approving amendments to the City of Willoughby Municipal Code Book, Chapter 705, Waterworks System, Section 705.040, water rates. We have a first read.
An ordinance amending Title 7 Utilities, Chapter 705, Waterworks System, Article 2, Water Service, Section 705.040, Water Rates of the Municipal Code of the City of Willoughby.
I'll make a motion to approve for the first reading.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Billiard?
Abstain. I'd like to wait until after the rate
Great study.
study. I couldn't think of the right word. Thank you, Troy.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Abstain for the rate study.
Alderman Hall?
Yes.
And Alderman Swaltosh?
Yes.
Motion first motion, I did carry it.
All right, item number 10, public hearing to consider and recommend amendments to the City of Willoughby Municipal Code Book, Chapter 710, sewer use and sewer rates, Section 710.470 rates. Open the floor for hearing and discussion. Okay. Not seeing any, close hearing. All right, item number 8, ordinance approving amendments to the City of Willoughby Municipal Code Book, Chapter 710, sewer use and sewer rates, Section 710.470 rates. We have a first read.
An ordinance amending Title 7 Utilities, Chapter 710, Sewer Use and Sewer Rates, Article 7, Wastewater Charges and Rates, Section 710.470, Rates of the Municipal Code of the City of Willoughby.
I'll make a motion to approve as read.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second motion. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Billiard?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Can I ask a question at this point, or is it too late?
You can ask for a point of clarification.
The rate study, we are under contract and it has been started, is that correct? Yes.
How soon will that take effect?
We probably won't have full data back on the rate study until mid to late summer. At best, there will be information to be put through the board for rate changes early fall.
So in other words, we keep hemorrhaging money.
We're just continuing to go deeper and deeper. Particularly on both the water and without using.
Alderman Hall?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alderman Swaltosh?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 12, ordinance accepting a memorandum of understanding, also known as an MOU, with the Joint Municipal Water Commission to establish membership. We have the first read.
Do you want my commentary on any of this? Reminders for everybody if they want it.
If somebody would like a refresher, yeah, please give us a.
I wrote you all a novel and I'm going to read it because I don't want to leave anything out. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. So this is the contract with Southwest Missouri Joint Municipal Water Utility Commission, or JMUC, terrible acronym, anyway, sometimes called Southwest Missouri Water. The purpose of this group is to fund and build regional water supply projects for Southwest Missouri members. Cooperative pooling of funds spent publicly and transparently as required by law is focused on allocation of surface water storage in Stockton Lake and building a pipeline to Southwest Missouri to benefit regional members by providing an alternative water source in the case of inadequate or unsafe aquifer supply. You should have in your packet the MOU. This is a memorandum of understanding for rejoining the JMUC, which requires a payment of $6,065. And it's a cost determined by a primacy fee multiplied by the number of our sewer or water connections. Sorry, not sewer. This amount is paid annually. We did it before when we were members of this group. The group is currently negotiating a water storage contract with the Army Corps of Engineers, which controls Stockton Lake. The volume of storage being negotiated is 19,250 acre feet of what they call dependable yield. So it's a portion allocated somewhat from the center of the lake, and it's water that would be released from the lake anyway, because there's so much that they have to let go down. But rather than letting it go elsewhere, it could be directed specifically to where our group says it should go. This is anticipated to provide 39 million gallons of water daily for the JMUC members. The Willard portion of membership is 2.1% of the total storage and is expected to yield between 0.8 and 1.15 million gallons of water once the system is put in operation. The total potential pipeline cost is 8 million, and the treatment could be 12 million. These decisions are not to be made immediately or paid for immediately. The pipeline engineering and building will be discussed after establishing the contract with the Army Corps of Engineers. Treatment options will then follow the pipeline. While this water is a viable option to serve the community, it can be held as a type of insurance against major changes in the aquifer or as an asset to be sold to others in need. It could be used for irrigation, or it could be used for another community who wants to process it and use it for drinking water. In the future, this water can be treated for use as a commodity that we can use it or we can sell it as is. The 2.1% will belong to Willard, and it can be done with us as we determine what Willard needs and how it should be used. The 2.1% of the water requires 2.1% of the annual cost of storage, which is estimated to be $59,000 a year. This will be payable at the time of the contract and that is established with the Army Corps of Engineers. After the contract is established, then the JMUC can begin engineering and building the pipeline to deliver the water to Southwest Missouri members. Once the pipeline construction is underway and completed, then the community can make decisions about how we would want to use the water when it gets here. So that's the full story of how we got where we are and where it would go. So the memorandum of understanding is simply saying we wish to participate in the group that is going to, and that would put us, give us the opportunity to be members of that contract with the Army Corps of Engineers for that water that will be allocated to JMUC. It is saying we want that 2.1% because it will benefit us later. That's
Thank
all.
you.
So in short, it's an insurance policy.
Yes,
Okay.
it's buying water for the future.
Go ahead.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Willard into a memorandum of understanding with the Joint Municipal Water Commission and authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city of Willard.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance as read.
I'll second. Go ahead, Joyce. Sorry.
And just for clarification, the Exhibit A, the top of it says draft attorney work product, privileged and confidential. It's neither privileged nor confidential nor attorney work product, so it would be what the agreement would be.
Okay, we do have a first and a second. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Villiers? Yes. Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Hall?
Yes.
Alderman Swaltosh?
Yes.
Thank you.
Number 13, ordinance authorizing the mayor to accept a proposal and contract with the Long Plumbing, Heating and Air for HVAC unit replacement at the Willard Recreational Center. Jason, you good, or you have something you want to say?
Thank you. This is been on the agenda a couple times now. This is just approval of contract to replace the unit in the small gym at the recreation center. It is the same age as the building, so it's nearing its full expected life, 25 years, and we've spent several $1,000s over the last couple of years replacing parts on it to keep it going. So without this unit, that our summer camp would not be able to meet because they're on the sun side of the building, so that portion of the building would be too hot for them to occupy during the day. So it is a crucial repair that keeps our building running.
Just out of curiosity, I'm so sorry if you missed that, I was reading the proposal. Did we put this out as a RFQ or?
We did in January.
Okay, did
Yeah.
anyone local come back or?
No local bids came back. Russell Foreman declared, or declined to bid on it. And our normal contractor was, several $1,000s higher than we normally use, or than the loan, so.
Okay. But we did at least put it out for an option and the
Yeah,
locals
we
declined.
always put it out, and I emailed all of our local companies, directly and said, do you want to bid on this? And I either got no response or no responses.
Okay.
Responses of no.
I figured you had, just because I know you're a proprietor for that, being involved in trying to be, but, okay, I just want to clarify, just so I, could sleep better knowing that we at least try to get a local business. I've done a lot of work, well, I've corresponded a lot with DeLong, and I know they do a phenomenal job, and I know that JW does a lot here in Willard locally as well, so. We just need a motion to approve the bid, or?
No, do you think we got a first read? Hey, anything else? Anybody want Jason's here? Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. That beer is coming in very nice. I just hope that AC will like
Yeah, it's gonna.
Cindy Crawford it, you
It's
know?
gonna.
All right, let's go.
How do you read after that?
Go ahead, first read, Donna.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor on behalf of the city of Willard to accept a proposal and contract with DeLong Plumbing, Heating and Air for HVAC unit replacement at the Willard Recreation Center and authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city of Willard.
Make a motion to accept the ordinance as well.
I'll second that.
And just as clarification, this offer of contract, we are, have a more robust option for it. So just to be clear, it would not be to sign this actual contract. It would have the clauses that are necessary for a contract. So it will be more robust than this, but it will meet the legal requirements. I think they were waiting on information as to when the completion date requirement would be to add to the final contract.
That is correct. There was, in January, when they bid the project, there was one unit in Springfield, and it was a 12-week lead time for another unit. So if that unit is sold, we will have to wait 12 weeks to get the next unit. So hopefully it's still in, but I won't know until I go to them and say, we approve your contract. And then they'll say, it'll be 12 weeks or 4 weeks.
Thank you. All right, we do have our first and second motion. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Delia?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Hall?
Yes.
Alderman Swaltosh?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 14, ordinance accepting an agreement with Cochran Engineering for a water study update and a 5-year Department of Natural Resources supervised program. Don, you have anything to say about that?
This is the same thing that we brought through the last meeting with the first read, and there haven't been any changes or updates in it. And it's, again, to allow for us to run stuff through DNR in advance, and they know what we're planning, and we can get it pre-approved, and it saves time later.
Just to dot all our i's and cross all our t's, have you reviewed this contract, or has your office reviewed it? Or was that when you're still with Reynolds and Gold?
I believe this has been through your office.
I
It
thought
seems as though we
James
did.
had looked
I
at
believe
it
so.
previously.
Sorry to put you on the spot, just.
Yeah, you
I'm
did
pretty
the
sure
contract.
we did it before the previous meeting,
Okay.
James looked at it.
Okay, just want to clarify, so there's no drop communication anymore.
Yep, because you can see that standard language, once you get into Cochrane standard terms and conditions, a lot of those are standard language.
Okay. No, thank you for clarifying.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with Cochran Engineering for a water study update and 5-year Department of Natural Resources, DNR, supervised program services, and authorizing the mayor to execute all necessary documents on behalf of the city of Willard.
I'll make a motion to approve as written, please.
For Casey first. We do have a first and second. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Gilliard.
Yes.
Alderman Key.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Alderman Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Swallow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 15, agreement with language services to comply with the city's limited English proficiency policy. I believe Steve was working on that.
Yeah, let me get here real quick, get to the conference stuff. You have your packet agreement with language services. This is necessary as part of our non-discrimination compliance with the Environmental Protection Agency for our EPA Congressional Remark Grant. The the statement of work is straightforward. For voice interpretation, it charges 64 minutes, or 64 cents a minute. For translation services, and it's in here somewhere. It's a relatively low number. We're not doing anything on site, we're doing it all remote. And the situation is, we'll be set up as a customer. We have an interpretation need or a translation need. We dial in, use our PIN codes, have it done, and we're furnished with an invoice for that little amount work.
For the setup fees, are there any, and are they substantial at all?
No.
It's just
They are,
pay by
as
minute?
you use, and I'm very familiar, I've used them for language lines specifically, since 2004. And I've used multiple languages. They have 240 plus currently. There are a couple that they don't have, but I've been with agencies where we had to contract with somebody else, but they've got the widest breadth of them, and they're available in any of them.
And see, we're gonna need this for a majority of federal loans, our grants that we're gonna ask for, right? We need it anyway.
Anything that applies under Title 4 or Title 6 and 7 of Civil Rights Act, you have to have this.
Okay.
We've not gotten that sophisticated in the past because our federal money has been of a much lesser nature, less complicated. Or with the upfront ARPA money, there was basically theoretically no strings attached. So now with the congressional earmark being administered through the EPA, we have to comply with everything.
Okay.
So this is a cheap deal. This is authorized to set up an account. Donna Slater will be the contact person. And we will also set it up that in her absence, an employee can, on behalf of the cell, request a verbal translation at any time, any day, any night. That's good for particularly in law enforcement.
Primarily, we see it with police officers and in court.
No.
All right, can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve to go into the agreement for language services.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Gilliard.
Yes.
Alderman Key.
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster.
Yes.
Alderman Hall.
Yes.
Alderman Swallow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 16, additional policies for civil rights compliance.
Yeah, this should complete our paper parade, this and the second round of it. You've got before you policies involving a non-discrimination coordinator, posting locations for notices, and a public participation policy. Non-discrimination coordinator basically is Donna Slater, kind of describes what her responsibilities are. Notice of posting locations, that's where we say, well, we're gonna put this stuff out available to the public. And the first round here, it's gonna be website, it's gonna be foyers of buildings accessible to the public. It's gonna be this boardroom. We're gonna publish a round of the non-discrimination policy in the Commonwealth, and mail a copy of the non-discrimination policy out with utility bills. So that should pretty well blanket us with website, mailings, and publications. We've done our duty to inform the public. The public participation policy basically says we're gonna do everything we can to accommodate all citizens without any discriminatory actions or prejudices. And it's kind of a catch-all. It gets everything through the department for a few people. Past concerns, contingency plans, public meetings, language assistance, media contacts. This is all required as one of the forms that you have to put out. So that should pretty well wrap that up. We approve these, I'll get them to the EPA, and we've got about 25 days left on our agreement, and we'll get that met.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the civil rights compliance.
I'll second.
We do have a first and a second motion. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Gilliard?
Yes.
Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Hall? Alderman Swallow?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 17, a resolution appointing Steve Bodenheimer as corporate representative for the city of Willard, the matter of city of Willard versus Hamilton. I'm assuming that's supposed to be Dad. Dad, right? Correct?
No, it's Dad.
It's Dad?
It is Dad. Hamilton and Dad.
Hamilton, all right, so be it. Let me read
Well, you
it.
know, there's Hamilton and Sons, and there's Hamilton.
All right, I'm gonna reread that since it is Dad.
It's Dad.
Resolution appointing Steve Bodenheimer as corporate representative for the city of Willard in the matter of city of Willard versus Hamilton and Dad.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Bodenhammer.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Gilliard?
Yes.
Alderman King?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Hall?
Yes.
Alderman Swallow?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Number 18.
Troy, let me throw something out.
Go ahead.
And I appreciate the information on the resolutions. And I'll get into this in the close of where we stand with litigation issues, but the attorney needs a corporate representative. And with the election coming and uncertainties and city administrator and uncertainties, Donna Stewart and I met, and I flipped the quarter her way and she threw it back to me, and I said, okay, I'll do it.
All right.
So that's the background on that.
Do what you ask for sometimes.
But I wanted it memorialized so as we change, everybody kind of has a record of
How everything
who
transpired.
appointed him king.
Yes, I understand. Good idea. Nothing wrong with the contingency plan. All right. 18, sanitary sewer project status report.
Well, on the 94 lift station, the Force Main, Dr. Martin's dealing with Liberty Utilities to increase the size of the electric service capacity at that location. Since we're making a provision for a third pump, 175 horsepower per pump. They're focusing on pipe materials, steel finessing between ductile iron and PVC, and they're about 15% complete with the design. Limix is basically 95% complete in the variable frequency drive installation. The drives are on. We are powering through them. We do have some SCADA, supervisory, control and data acquisition fine points to work out. And then I'll wrap that up. That should occur here later this week. Pay that job off and be done with it. And then, of course, all the civil rights compliance stuff under the 180-day agreement we just went through. On the meadows, we've got permission from all landowners on 106 to survey for easement for gravity sewer. First field surveying is done and the drafting is complete. So that will allow them to start looking at depths, grades, how much is this route gonna cost us versus how much is that route gonna cost us? And they're also in the discussion of the city of Springfield regarding the future flow meter specifications where we connect to the Springfield airport lift station. And to make sure we're all on the same page that the proposed specs for the flow meter make us happy and then happy, big Springfield. That's currently where we stand. It's slow, but it's moving forward.
Good, all right. Item 19, Jackson Street Overlay Project Status Report.
Well, we finally got approval from the Federal Highway Administration for the obligation of funds for preliminary engineering for this project. It's a slow, methodical, step-by-step process, and I will say this, since my tenure at Stratford, it has gotten a lot more complicated than it used to be. But this now gives CJW the green light to go ahead with project engineering, in that they'll put together their estimate of cost for the overlay. We'll submit that back to OTO. Federal Highway will have to agree to fund that, and we'll put it out for bid.
So
It's
if you
just
can,
later this year.
give us a ballpark when you think asphalt's gonna hit Jackson Street.
October. The wheels of that moves.
The wheels of bureaucracy here, beautiful things.
Maybe pessimistic rather than optimistic.
Just think when it happens early, you're gonna be just.
Probably get some
Kicking
wheelbarrows
your
and
heels.
shovels and probably do it faster, but
You know, it'll be cool, so you can have a festival around it.
I like the idea.
Can you do it after June? I don't want to feel as guilty about it.
Very nice. All right, number 20, discussion of residency for election candidates. Oh, you have some information for us.
Yes, the statutes delineate what the requirements are for residency, in that one must be a resident of Willard. And so the city cannot impose their own. Your power comes from Dillon's rule, which your power only emanates from that which is given to you from the legislature. So they set the responsibility. The problem is residency in general is about the mushiest term we have. People think that it's super easy, and it's not. Residency is based primarily on intent. Where do I intend to reside? I could have a home in Willard. My home could catch fire. I could temporarily be mandated to reside somewhere else because my home was on fire. And as long as my intent is to remain, to rebuild, and to withstand the requirements of residency, I could still qualify as a resident, even if I were temporarily outside. So generally, what do we look at for residency? We look at where are you registered to vote, because it's election based. We look at where your license is. Licenses are for a relatively long time period, and people are horrible about updating their addresses for their licenses, except for when they are from 15 to 21. Then they're real good about making sure that they get their licenses updated. So it's very difficult to ascertain one way or another, because it has to do with the intent of the person. And so you have to look at what intent they are demonstrating.
So theoretically, I could live in St. Louis and say I intend to move to Willard, and I could run for an elected office.
So we would require more than that, right? If your intent is I want to eventually reside there, that's not sufficient. You would need a much closer nexus than that, because you don't currently reside. So you have to currently have 1 year prior to the election, you have to have resided. So that person wouldn't meet that requirement for residency. And generally, the clerk determines residency when there is the application, the end of the application period which they're working on the legislation to change that, otherwise it will be on Christmas Day next year. It is the legislation that is moving through, but that will be the last day because it's based on counting back Tuesdays. And there's no ability to change or vary that date. So it's based on how long you have lived here. Once you meet that requirement, then that's when you get into the mushier area. That 1 year, you truly have to reside here. So that example of the St. Louis person who intends to reside here doesn't meet that 1 year pre-requirement. Does that make sense?
It does.
And it really gets difficult when you get to the point of, I meet all of my requirements, and now I'm moving, and where that time period ends.
And where theoretically would we stand with an ordinance? Well, I know you said it reverts back to state statute, but like the school districts require a bill or something with your name on it, and then if you say I'm living with my cousin Billy, then the school system, I believe, requires Billy to come in and actually sign an affidavit. And a lot of times Billy doesn't want to do that because he doesn't want to put his name on an affidavit. Would we have any standing to do something to that?
So your power in that, once somebody is elected, so qualifications are determined up until the election. We have been asked, our office just did some pretty extensive research generally on can you choose not to swear in? Because there's concerns about a person who is elected and not meeting. You must swear that person in, but then at the point that people feel there is sufficient ability, and people, I mean the board, you can impeach for failing to meet the requirements. But you can't create a system of recording because it's believed, and it's our office's opinion, that that is taken out of the power of the board and created through the legislature by what those requirements are. So you can't add requirements, and the verification of requirements would be through an impeachment process once they are set.
Have you ever experienced that, the impeachment process or something like that?
I have not personally. I'm trying to think through. There's enough contentions out there. I think it's always been for other cause issues that usually encourage a board to take that kind of position.
And ultimately,
But
it
it
would be
can
the
be.
board to decide if, after the swearing in, if an impeachment occurred, then it would be up to the board to decide during the impeachment process if there was enough valid information to substantiate that the individual does or does not live within the jurisdiction to meet the requirements.
Right, so it's a cause hearing, and the impeachment then is a vote, and then there is an appeal process for that, but the finding of facts in which that trial takes place at the board level. So the evidence would have to come in through the board level. So that would be, there's not really depositions. Usually you can ask for discovery. There are some in which they have utilized taking statements. So that would be our recommendation to utilize. You want to have the best hearing possible in regards to that. But when it comes down to it, I live with so-and-so, right? So that person has all the bills. And that's what you're talking about with the school. Then the person who you're living with who has all of the bills, they verify and swear to it. The people who testify at an impeachment hearing are sworn in. Now, everybody knows perjury is difficult, right? Especially when it's, I promise, then I do. There was a very highly contentious issue regarding a judge in Kansas City and whether or not she stayed a sufficient amount of time at her home. She was married and her husband lived out of the jurisdiction, and it's mandatory for Kansas City. And she spent a substantial amount of time, and that went to hearing, and they lost. We paid a substantial sum for that. So it's difficult because, the court said she says she lives there. Her intent is to live there. And they had an undercover person follow her for, I think, 30 days and calculated how many days she actually was at it, which was very minimal.
Okay.
It's a very hard situation. The hope is that the desire to serve is great enough that you would be appropriate and serve when you can. But unfortunately, it's not very well developed.
That it? Anybody else? Okay. Item number 21, new business.
So in some recent closed sessions, just something that has come to mind. Do we have a code of conduct for the board and the mayor as far as if I have legal proceedings against me? I mean, just one, you know what I'm talking about, one person that so, and I know in that situation, there was not a code of conduct, that they created a code of conduct. Do we have a code of conduct for us, first of all, other than we must have our taxes paid?
So that's a statutory requirement?
Yes.
And that statutory requirement is to be on the ballot. There's not a requirement at the point that you then are elected that you, not to encourage anyone, but that's a qualifying aspect. So the problem is your power in addressing someone's status or ability to remain in the seat is through the impeachment process. It would not be in the creation of a code of conduct. It's a for cause, and that's laid out in the impeachment process, whether or not it gets up to that level. But you can't legislate on your own what those things would be that are acceptable and not acceptable, because that's already created by statute in regards to impeachment.
So if citizens vote someone in that has a less than stellar legal record, then that just stands and it doesn't matter.
Well, I think the citizens would question, there's.
Some citizens will
what
question,
But what protection is there for the city for one and for the residents? I guess would be my question. So, yeah, I see where.
I mean, and I don't know if you were in on that one meeting that we were on, but I mean, when someone represents himself as something and then you find that there are legal findings.
It would have to do with their ability to serve, and where that line is a fine line, but it's the impeachment process.
I see what you're saying. You're asking if we have a code of conduct, similar to teachers have a code of conduct written into their contract that they have to abide by. And for example, my mother was a teacher at a private school, and in upholding her end of being a teacher, she could not be in certain establishments. That was part of her code of conduct. Do we have anything along that line? Not necessarily to not go to certain establishments, but as being members of the board or employees of the city of Willard, do we have certain code of conduct to uphold? And if we break that, what's the ramifications?
And
if we don't, can we create one?
Right.
So,
No.
and speaking with that, so if you, as an example, with my work, we go through background checks. I mean, the only, and I'm assuming he's an elected official, but.
And
he's also-
we're getting close to being something that's not published on this pursuant to sunshine. So we have new business and we can discuss this at the next.
So, and I guess that's what I'm just wanting, as far as new business is, can you give us guidance on that?
absolutely.
That would be what I would ask for new businesses.
Yeah, we
Can
can,
you give guidance on code
We
of
can.
conduct and what that looks like? And is the mayor's position, since it's also a paid position, is he a employee or just an elected official, or how does that jive?
technically an elected, receives the benefits of the paid position as determined by this body. You decide amount of pay, benefits, et cetera. The code of conduct, there are conflicts of interest. There are the Missouri Ethics Commission, which has requirements. Nepotism is the most well-known, that you can't hire, as the hiring party, making a decision regarding somebody who's related to you. There's conflict of interest where there's a financial benefit. Those are processes that are already in place. Additional qualifications regarding character, which I believe is what you're talking about. No, that is not. This is politicians and politics, and the idea of that our country is built on this is essentially it's the determination of the voters.
It's just
Obviously,
something that came
no,
about
obviously any
because of
crime or
what we did.
anything like that is still enforceable with any citizen or anyone who's transacting within the city boundaries, but, yeah, it's really to the voters. But we can certainly have that discussion and add that to the next agenda.
I mean, I think you pretty much, like I said, that has just been something that's kind of been on my mind after I saw it happen in another city, that they created a code of conduct for an individual, so.
All right, let's go to what is now, we're skipping 22, making 23, number 22, and we recess the open session.
Make a motion to recess the open session.
Second.
We have a first and second. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Bearden?
Yes.
Alderman Keen?
Yes.
Alderman Lancaster?
Yes.
Alderman Hall?
Yes.
Alderman Speltosh?
Yes.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, the recess into closed session is pursuant to RSMO 610-021, sub 1, sub 3, and sub 13, being legal person and personnel.
Everybody get that?